question. How do you get to the essence of whatever it is you are working on? Now, you around this table earlier today, you spoke about various areas you are concerned with, from artificial intelligence to emotions to unconscious to dreaming. How do you get to the essence of this? This is the question Heidegger asks. The job here is immaterial. How do you get to the essence? Yeah? And Heidegger is saying the thingness of the essence of the thing you are working on, you will not be able to get to it as long as your thinking is, as Twilio was saying, rational or logical. We only arrive at the thing in itself if our thinking has previously reached the thing as thing. And what does it mean to reach the thing as thing? It means, we know enough already to say, it means something which is outside of representation. What happens when we reach the thing through representation? We reach it as an object. Yeah? So when we represent the job in whatever way, photographically, physically, or otherwise, we get a representation. We get a representation of an object. Yeah? But the thingness remains outstanding. The thingness always evades. Yeah? So Heidegger says you need another strategy.
Can you say that the essence of the job is just being?
Yes, without the just. Do you know why? Yes. Well, without the jag, yeah, the essence of the jag is being. The question then is, okay, what is being?
It's a job.
It's a jag, but what it is? What is the is? It is a jag, but what is the is?
Is.
Huh?
Is. It's like being is being.
Yeah, but what is, we know, look, it's a bit like this. Let me see if I can get an image on the screen of this simple formula. I used to use this formula so much that the students made me a silk print image of it. It used to be on the wall here for a couple of years. They removed it. Anyway, one second. I need this to open. Okay, can you see that? Yeah, so this is the formula, if you like, of how representation operates. And in logical terms, it is one of the foundational principles of thinking. It's called the principle of non-contradiction. That doesn't matter. I don't care about whether you know the terminology. The point is, what does it mean to say that A equals A? It means that A is not B. It means that an apple is not an orange. It means that an apple is an apple. An orange is an orange. It's a principle that is at the basis of, let's say, building a dictionary. You know, so what is a table? A table is a surface for eating or writing on 3 or more legs. Yeah? So, a surface for writing on 3 or more legs equal table. Yeah? That's how the dictionary works. So, we know what the A is on the left-hand side. We know what the A is on the right-hand side. Yeah? What we don't know is what the equal sign is. We know that A is supposed to be equal to A. But what the equal sign is supposed to be equal to? Yeah, you see? And somehow it looks like that to use this formula, and this is the formula of photography, isn't it? So here is my picture here, and here is my face, and then someone needs to look at both of them and say, are they equal or unequal? Yeah? And that determines one's fate. That determines your political rights, whether you can come and study here. Many things depend on this identity. This is the formula of identity. This is the principle of identity, if you want to have it correct title. A equals A, and one day we'll look at what Heidegger has to say about it. But the point is that it seems that for this formula to operate, we take it as a given that the equal sign is a valid operation. Yeah? But how do we prove that? Well, it is impossible to prove it from within the principle of identity, because we cannot say, what would that mean? So, equal. What is equal? What the equal to? Well, the equal is equal to the equal. And you kind of, you already took leave of your senses if you are in this territory. Because you cannot explain the equal sign by saying what is it equal to. Because you somehow need to first establish what the equal is. So where are we? We are in a kind of tumbling down the hole that Alice falls in Alice in Wonderland. And this is exactly Alice in Wonderland fall. It's a fall through the hole of rationality. Did you read Alice in Wonderland? One sunny afternoon, in the rational Victorian England, she falls through the hole into a world where different logic operates, when you can be big and small at the same time, not once big and once small. When suddenly this principle of A equal A does not apply. You can be both a little girl and a deck of cards and a rabbit, all these things possible, all at the same time. Yeah? We know that we call it today relativity or quantum or multiverse. But that's what happens when the A equal A becomes a problem. And what made it interesting to go and see how the absurdity of the equal operate, but it's kind of it's one of these things that once you realize how the A equal A as the identity template or formula operates, you recognize it everywhere, and it becomes a useful device with which to approach a work of art. Some works, that's what they do. They basically take that as their starting position. When someone says, "Oh, well, I was trying to represent," they're working or based on this formula. It doesn't mean that it is necessarily bad. It's just interesting that that's where they start from. And other people who don't want to start from this formula often end up making things which are difficult, incomprehensible, monstrous, ridiculous, crazy. But that's it becomes a very useful device with which to look at an art object. Yeah. So, for instance, I still think that the Duchamp's urinal is an attempt to reject the A equal A, or at least to show the formula itself at work. Yeah? And that's why I think it is really kind of integral. I felt such a, because I had to show it yesterday in the lecture, the image. Maybe next time. Okay, so you see what is at stake here. It can sometimes feel a bit torturous sure about the Hegelian text, but I want you to feel that he's speaking directly to certain things we are concerned with. Now, he is pushing forward. Where are we going? Yes, this is nice. Okay. So, look, would you read to us this paragraph here? Oh, actually, the one before as well. We are on page 8. Page 8 in the book.
But as soon as we leave this aside so as to investigate the actual jug scientifically in regards to its actuality, then another state of affairs shows itself. If we pour wine into the jug, we merely force out the air that already fills the jug and replace it with a fluid. Viewed scientifically, to fill the jug means to exchange one filling for another.
What do you think he says here?
He says that nothing's happened, in a way.
No, not exactly. He says that if you want to be really pedantic, you cannot tell and say, your friend, can you please fill this jug for me? What you need to say is, can you please replace the liquid, the fluid that is in it at the moment with another fluid? You know, because at the moment it has air, it's not like it's empty, really. So you basically need to replace one volume of material with another. He says that's how you need to speak if you really want to be scientific about it. And what it tells us, what he wants us to understand, he wants us to understand that the way science talks about things and our experience of things are very different. Yeah? Because obviously in real life, you will not say, can you please replace the material in this jug? You don't care about it. You care about having some water to put on the table for dinner. Yeah? So you ask, can you fill this jug with water? Or can you fill this jug with wine? And what matters to you is not the scientific description of replacing one liquid, one filling with another. What matters to you is that you want to drink the water in the jug, to quench your thirst. It's the thirst that matters, you know, and not the volume of material, not the volume of liquid. Does it make sense? So immediately we understand that we are already in the kind of multiverse. There is the universe of the scientific, rational grasping of objects, and there is the universe of experience, and they are completely different. Yeah? You know how sometimes you get a coffee from a coffee shop and it says contents is hot. Well, do you know why they have it? Why?
To avoid being sued.
Well, exactly, because in the past it happened that people spilled coffee on themselves. It was, in particular, there was a famous court case in the States, in the United States, when someone bought coffee from a McDonald's, got into the car, was trying to hold the cup between their knees, I think, while starting the car. It all spilled, they got first-degree burns. And the argument in court was, I bought coffee, but I didn't ask for it to be hot. You know? Because the defense was saying, well, it stands to reason that if you buy coffee, it will be hot. I mean, it's coffee, yes, it's not like ice cream. And then you need to take precautions. But the argument of the plaintiff was, I just asked for coffee. I didn't specify for it to be at any particular temperature. And the coffee was hot. I was not worried about it. I scalded myself. And
I
therefore,
think the argument was that it was too hot, because I actually saw her, sorry, it's getting into details, but I saw her wounds.
yes,
And all her skin peeled off her
that's right.
middle part.
That's right.
It's too hot.
Well, yeah, too hot. But the point is that here you have kind of two worldviews of the same cup of coffee, two approaches clashing. McDonald's are saying, look, McDonald's kind of taking the Heideggerian position here. They say, look, it just stands to reason that coffee is hot, you know. In the sense its hotness is what you want in coffee. And the plaintiff says, scientifically, there is no such thing as hot. You know, what does it mean hot? That temperature, of course, but there was no. Where are we going with this exactly? What I want you to understand? I want you to understand that the question is, what is this jug doing with you, for you, in your everyday life? And the answer to this question will not come to you through the scientific approach, through the scientific method. Viewed scientifically, to fill the jug means to exchange one filling for another. But you need to understand that this is a completely ridiculous approach to really filling the jug. Yeah? In the everyday. If that's how you will go about your everyday, you will basically, well, you will not be able to function. You know, what kind of functioning it will be. If you will base your relationship to objects on the scientist relationship. What is the scientist relationship to objects in the laboratory? It is one, of course, of complete detachment. Yeah? So when the scientist looks at the jug, they need to be objective. Yeah? We are told always the science has to be objective. Being objective, interestingly, means treating the jug as an object. And also establishing a separation between you and the jug. And this separation is expressed beautifully in the equal sign here. Yeah? That is the separation of the scientist and the jug. Now, in the next paragraph, Luke, can you also read this?
These suppositions of physics are correct. By means of them, science represents something actual, according to which it objectively judges. But is this actual something the jug? No. Science only ever encounters that which its manner of representation has previously admitted as a possible object for itself.
That's very good, isn't it? So, what do you hear being said here?
The validity of scientific description is only valid within the scientific framework.
That's perfect. Very well put. Did you hear that? Can you repeat it? Yes.
The validity of scientific description is only valid within the scientific framework.
That's right. When Heidegger says the suppositions of physics are correct, he's saying it in his most sarcastic voice. Of course, you are correct. But correct doesn't mean that you are right. You are correct. And what it means to be correct is that you didn't make an error in your calculations. Your calculation is correct. Whether it leads you to the true conclusion, that remains to be seen. And for Heidegger, of course, isn't. By means of its correctness, science represents something actual. It represents, you know, the nails on the blackboard. represents something actual, according to which it objectively judges. So representation is objective. But is it a good thing? No, it's not a good thing. Because representation will always be correct. Yeah? It will be correct. But does it give you the actuality of the jug? Does it give you the jug itself? No. Science only ever encounters that which its manner of representation has previously admitted as possible object to itself. Which means, simply stated, that science has a frame, and only that which gets in the frame gets examined. Yet the frame might be a telescope, it might be a microscope, it might be a formula. It's always a point of view. Whatever is fitting there gets examined, and only that. Yeah. So there is always something essential missing. Yeah. So according to science, you know, coffee is always at some temperature. And if you have a thermometer, you can always say with precision what temperature the coffee is. And it could be that in McDonald's there is a regulation, I'm sure there is, that says that coffee has to be served at 93 degrees centigrade, for instance. And that's fine, and you can do it with precision. What the thermometer will never tell you is at which temperature it becomes uncomfortable, or at which temperature it will scold you. Science is indifferent to that, The scientists will say, oh, look, I really don't like this temperature because it is not comfortable to hold, You have to be objective towards your object of investigation. And being objective means giving us the number, not telling us where it is too hot. Okay. And then this is nice, I'll put it in a different color. It is said that the knowledge of science is compelling. Certainly. Again, you have to hear his snarky tone. Certainly. But what does its compulsion consist of? In our case, in the compulsion to relinquish the jug filled with wine and to put in its place a cavity in which a fluid expands. Science makes the jug thing into something negligible, insofar as the thing is not admitted as the standard. Yet, so the scientist doesn't see the jug as filled with wine, the promise of intoxication, the promise of good company and the conversation, the promise of a hangover in the morning. The science sees a cavity in which a fluid expands. Yeah. Now, isn't that different with photography? I think that photography very often seeks a kind of comfort in relying on the scientific paradigm. Look at this, the previous paragraph. Science only ever encounters that which its manner of representation has previously admitted as possible object for itself. Can someone read this sentence again? Someone else now. Can someone read the sentence again? Anyone?
Which one?
This sentence, the last sentence. Here, start with science. And wait. And replace the word science with photography. And let's see what happens.
Photography only ever encounters which its manner.
No. Again.
Photography only ever encounters that which its manner of representation has previously admitted as a possible object for itself.
Interesting? It is interesting, isn't it? Okay, so you have your camera, but you can only photograph, or you can only make the kind of picture that the camera permits you to take. How could it be otherwise? Well, why your camera has only one lens? Why not 20 lenses? Why not 20 different apertures, all the different sizes? Why your camera is square and not round? Why the exposure is timed in one way and not in another? Why the exposure is measured in seconds and not, for instance, in decades, years, aeons, infinity? Some decisions were made. These decisions determine fully and devastatingly what you will get. We could imagine a camera with an infinite shutter speed, and the picture will be different, won't it? Yeah. But so it's interesting, yeah. How come that when you take a new camera out of the box, it is already. I'm giving a review of some smartphone. And it said, it is very difficult to take a bad picture with this phone. And it's an interesting thought, isn't it? First, that there is such thing as a good picture, and we know what it means. Sharp, saturated, bright, detailed, focused. These kind of things we attribute to the good picture. The good picture, yeah? And it is very difficult to take a bad picture, which means it is very difficult to take a picture which is blurred, out of focus, dull, unsaturated, unclear. But why? Is everything in life so clear and so sharp? You know, that there is nothing to say about unsharpness and fuzziness and blurriness. Why we so automatically prefer clarity over blurriness, or sharpness over movement, or saturation over dullness? Why? Why? Someone made some decisions. It is exactly the same decision that operates when you see twins in the pram and you say, oh my God, they're so similar. Yes. What? Someone makes some decisions. And this year we didn't read Wilhelm Flusser. I think he's coming in later on. But Flusser speaks a lot about the way, in his little book, Towards the Philosophy of Photography, he speaks a lot about the way the photographer is, generally speaking, the slave of the camera. The camera has a program, and the photographer executes the program. To make the camera do what you want and not what the camera wants is incredibly difficult. You need to kind of hack the camera. You need to work against it. As long as you bring back your sharp, clear, saturated pictures, you basically do what the camera told you to do, no matter what is in the frame. Yeah? So what does it mean to break from this spell of the camera? And it's not an easy thing, because behind this camera you hold in your hands, whether it is a Nikon or a Canon or a Sony or a Pentax, there's a massive conglomerate with a feedback mechanism that improves itself all the time and making sure that it is progressively harder to take a bad picture. Yeah? So science only ever encounters, photography only ever encounters that which its manner of representation has previously admitted as a possible object for itself. Which basically means you will always find the thing you are looking for, because you know in advance what you are looking for. Yeah? So, but if you want to find the essence of something, you need to have another way of working. Okay, how are we doing? Any questions?
So it seems like, okay, for something to be objective, what we kind of talked about last Wednesday was you arrive at it through experiments. So like we experiencing something again and again and seeing what are the universals, right? So it's a way of kind of negating that, going back to the specific experience that's not universal.
Yes, right.
Like what you said about seeing a job as like.
That's right. Let's just keep what you said now. It's going back, maybe forward or sideways, to the immediate experience. Yeah, to the immediate experience. But the question is, how do we do that? How do we really go to the immediate experience of the cup? Because, you know, no matter what else was said around this table, we kind of understand, you know, that Heidegger tells us that the scientific method doesn't get us to the truth of things. Whether it is the photographic representation or scientific, or all this kind of representation, because they're all based on the same thing, which is the A equal A, or the principle of non-contradiction, or logic, or rationality. Namely, to say like by now your vocabulary of these things is probably already quite expansive. None of this will get us to what's really going on, because it is just the wrong way to go about it. In a sense, the Cartesian model, cogito, I think, therefore I am, and all its trappings, doesn't get us to the essence of things. Yes, we're here. Yes? We understand that? Okay.